They call her the prettiest girl on campus, the one who turns heads in the daylight and disappears at night. But when the city sleeps, Aria Vale hunts. Behind her angelic smile hides a history written in blood. Once a loving daughter, now a merciless assassin, she lives two lives, student by day, killer by night, all to bury the ghosts of a family murdered by their own blood. She thought avenging her parents would free her. She was wrong. Now someone has placed a price on her head, and as the hunter becomes the hunted, Araya must face the truth. In the world she built from vengeance, no one leaves clean, not even the innocent girl she used to be. The rain fell like shattered glass that night, thin, sharp, relentless. A man stumbled through the alley behind Danton Street, his breath ragged, his phone trembling in his hand. His voice cracked as he whispered into the darkness. "Please, whoever you are, I'll pay double." A sound answered him, the whisper of metal sliding free. Then silence. When the streetlight flickered back on, she was already there. A figure in black, slim, steady. The hood shadowed most of her face, but the glint of crimson under her eyes told its own story. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. A suppressed gun coughed twice. Phut, phut. And the man collapsed against the wall, sliding down in slow motion, his lifeblood spilling into the puddles at her feet. She watched him die with no expression. Then she knelt, calm, professional, pulling from his jacket a single gold locket. Her fingers lingered on it for only a moment before she tucked it into her own coat pocket. "Debt paid," she whispered. Her voice was soft, almost musical. A car passed by at the far end of the street, headlights sweeping briefly over her face. If anyone had been looking, they would have seen it, the beauty that didn't belong to this kind of darkness. She was young, perhaps 22, with features sculpted like poetry and eyes that carried storms. And then she was gone, melted into the rain, leaving behind only the faint scent of wild roses. By morning, Aria Vale was smiling in the sunlight. The same hands that had pulled the trigger hours ago now held a coffee cup as she sat on a bench at Hawthorne University, surrounded by students laughing, gossiping, living. Her long auburn hair framed her face perfectly. Her emerald green eyes glimmered with life and secrets. "Morning, Aria," called Brooke, her roommate, waving from across the quad. "You coming to class or going to be late again?" Aria smiled, a real, radiant smile. "I'll catch up." Just needed a minute. She sounded so normal that it scared even her sometimes. The world saw her as the girl everyone wanted to be, confident, brilliant, effortlessly beautiful. She topped her classes, captained the fencing team, and made professors admire her calm composure. But none of them knew the other side of Aria Vale, the side that wore gloves and left no witnesses. None of them knew that beneath her gentle laugh lived a history soaked in blood. She often wondered on quiet mornings like this if she had ever truly been alive before that night 10 years ago, the night her childhood ended. It had been a winter evening in her father's mansion, all marble floors and gold chandeliers. Her mother had been playing piano, her father reading by the fire, and she, little Aria, had been sketching something childish and innocent, her parents smiling, the family dog curled at their feet. Then came the sound of shattering glass, then the smell of smoke, then the sound of her father shouting her name. "Aria, run!" She had hidden under the grand piano, too scared to breathe. Through the reflection of polished ivory, she saw them. Men in masks, guns drawn, her uncle standing among them with a cruel smile. "Brother," he said coldly, "you always thought I couldn't handle the business? Now it's mine." Her father's last words were drowned by the gunfire that followed. Her mother's scream, the kind of sound that could break something inside your soul, echoed in Aria's head long after the house went up in flames. She had escaped through the servants' quarters, barefoot and trembling, clutching the family locket her mother had given her. By dawn, she was an orphan. Years later, when she turned 16, she found him, the man who trained her. He was known only as Silas, a retired assassin who lived like a ghost in the outskirts of Chicago. She had gone to him not for mercy, but for mastery. "I don't train children," he had told her the first time they met. "I'm not a child," she had answered, her voice as steady as a blade. I want to learn how to kill. There was no emotion in her words, no hesitation, just cold fire. Silas saw something in her, something raw, dangerous, unbreakable. And so he trained her. For years, he taught her everything: how to fight, how to disappear, how to kill quickly and without regret. But regret always finds a way in. Because the more Arya learned to end lives, the more she remembered the faces of the ones she'd lost. And in every target, she saw her uncle's shadow. By 20, she found him. And when she did, she didn't kill him quickly. Her uncle, Victor Vale, had grown rich and powerful, head of Vale Enterprises, living in a mansion bigger than the one he had stolen. She infiltrated his world easily, first as a catering staff, then as a silent ghost in the dark. The night she stood before him, gun in hand, he had laughed. "So my brother's little girl grew up," he sneered. "Tell me, Arya, what did you think would happen when you killed me? That you'd feel peace?" "I don't want peace," she said. "I want silence." When she pulled the trigger, it wasn't anger that drove her. It was something colder, emptier. When his body hit the floor, she felt nothing. No triumph, no release. Just the quiet hum of a life that had lost its meaning. But killers rarely get to stop. Silas had warned her. Once you step into the world of blood, it will never let you go. He was right. The agency that hired her for revenge offered more: money, access, a new identity. And Arya, too numb to refuse, accepted. For 2 years now, she had lived between two worlds: the glowing lecture halls of Hawthorne by day and the cold alleys of Chicago by night. She killed for clients she'd never meet. She laughed with classmates who'd never know. She smiled at professors who praised her brilliance, never realizing her mind was full of blueprints for murder. And sometimes when she stood before the mirror, she wondered which Arya was real, the girl or the ghost. That afternoon after class, Arya walked across the courtyard, lost in thought. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Unknown, new contract. Target, Marcus Hale, CEO. File drops 9 p.m., usual spot. She stared at the message for a moment, her reflection visible in the glass window beside her. The wind lifted her hair, sunlight catching the faint scar under her chin, a remnant from her first kill. Another job, another life to erase, another step away from humanity. Brooke's voice broke through her thoughts again. "Arya, we're all going to the campus cafe later. You in?" Arya hesitated, smiled faintly. "Sure, I'll come by later." But as Brooke walked away, Arya's gaze lingered. Not on her friend, but on the horizon, on the crimson sunset bleeding into the sky like the reflection of all she'd done. She whispered under her breath, "Maybe this one will be the last." But fate doesn't end that easily. That night, when she went to retrieve the file, she found something she never expected. Inside the envelope was the usual photo, address, intel. But beneath it, there was another picture, her own. Her heart froze, and in the corner of the photograph, written in elegant red ink, were 4 words: "Your time is up." The rain began again. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Arya looked around the empty alley, her breath visible in the cold air. For the first time in years, she felt fear. And for the first time since her parents' death, she realized someone was hunting her. The rain refused to stop that night. It poured like judgment, washing the city clean of light and mercy. Arya stood in the alley with the envelope still in her hand, her heartbeat steady, but her breath uneven. The message inside burned more than fire ever could. "Your time is up." She read the words again, half hoping they would change, that some trick of the eye had invented them. But they didn't. They stayed there, red ink bleeding across her photograph like a wound. Her first instinct was denial. Her second was calculation. Who could have sent this? Her mind raced through names, faces, contracts, every client, every handler. No one in her chain of command knew her real identity. She'd built her cover too carefully. The only ones who knew the truth were Silas and the agency. And if the agency wanted her dead, it meant only one thing: she'd become a liability. By midnight, she was already in motion. She returned to her dorm, blending in with the quiet rhythm of campus life. Students laughed down the hall, their voices muffled by walls she had learned to hide behind. She shut the door behind her, pulled the curtains closed, and dropped the act. Her face in the mirror was pale under the flicker of fluorescent light. The girl in the reflection looked like her, but not quite. Her eyes were too sharp, too empty. On the desk, hidden under old textbooks and an innocent flower vase, was a black metal case. Arya opened it slowly, her fingers brushing the cool steel of her suppressed pistol. Beneath it, 2 passports, 2 phones, a flash drive, her escape plan, one she hoped she'd never need. She turned on the second phone and called a number she hadn't dialed in months. It rang 3 times before a gravelly voice answered. "Who's this?" "It's me," she said quietly. "We need to talk." A long pause. Then the voice said, "You shouldn't be calling me, Arya." "Someone's after me, Silas?" Silas didn't respond for a moment, but she could hear the subtle inhale of someone trying to process something he'd hoped he'd never hear. "Tell me everything," he said finally. They met in an abandoned train yard outside the city, a place where the world forgot to look. Silas looked older than she remembered, his gray hair thinner, his eyes deeper. But his presence was the same, calm, unreadable, dangerous. He stood by the tracks, watching her approach. "You should have stayed away from this life," he said before she could speak. "You trained me for it," she replied coldly. "I trained you to survive, not to drown." She handed him the envelope. He opened it, scanned the contents, and his jaw tightened. "Someone inside the agency sent this," he muttered. "The ink. It's a signature of their inner council. It means your file's been marked for closure." "Closure," she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's what they call it now?" He sighed. "They never let anyone walk away, Arya. Not you, not me. We're all ghosts the moment we take our first job." She looked past him, into the endless stretch of rail lines, vanishing into mist. "I didn't even do anything wrong," she said softly. "I followed orders." "That's the problem," Silas said. "You were too good. The best they ever had. The kind they can't control." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind cut through the silence, carrying the smell of rust and rain. "Who's behind it?" she asked finally. "I don't know," Silas admitted, "but I can find out. You'll need to disappear for now. No contact, no contracts, no campus. Just, no," she interrupted, shaking her head. "I can't disappear. They'll just keep coming." "Then what do you plan to do?" Her eyes lifted to his. "Find whoever sent this, and end it." Silas looked at her for a long time. "You're still chasing ghosts, Arya. You killed the man who took your family. Don't let the agency take what's left of you." She smiled faintly, a sad, distant smile. "What's left of me died a long time ago." The next day, the world went on, pretending. Students filled the campus with laughter and sunlight. Music poured from open windows. Arya walked through it all like a shadow made of glass, invisible and breakable. Brooke caught up with her between classes, cheerful as ever. "You vanished last night. Where'd you go?" Arya forced a smile. "Just needed some air." "You sure you're okay?" "You look pale." "I'm fine." But she wasn't. Every sound made her glance over her shoulder. Every reflection made her flinch. The hunter had become prey, and she hated the feeling. At the edge of the courtyard, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A man in a gray coat standing beneath the clock tower. He was reading a newspaper. Too casual. Too still. She recognized the stance instantly. Agency surveillance posture. He lifted his eyes, and for a fraction of a second, their gazes met. Then he turned and walked away. Arya didn't chase. Not yet. She just memorized his face. And she knew they were already here. That night she went underground. She followed the man's trail through the city's lower veins. Subway lines, old tunnels, half-forgotten places where only the desperate and the dangerous survived. Her movements were precise. She changed clothes twice, switched trains 3 times, and finally emerged in the old industrial district. The air smelled like smoke and memory. She found the man in a warehouse by the docks, alone, waiting. He wasn't surprised when she stepped from the shadows. "Miss Vale," he said calmly, lowering his newspaper, "you were quicker than expected." "Who sent you?" she demanded. He smiled faintly. "You already know." She raised her gun. "Say it." "The agency." He didn't even flinch. "Why?" "They said you were compromised. Too human. Too dangerous." "Then they were right," she said quietly, and pulled the trigger. When the echo faded, she stood there, trembling. Not from fear, but from the weight of it all. She looked down at the man's body and noticed something. A tattoo on his wrist. A mark she hadn't seen in years. It was the agency's inner emblem, but altered. Modified with a new symbol overlapping it. A crimson serpent. Something about it chilled her more than death itself. She took a picture of it and sent it to Silas. His reply came 2 minutes later. "Run! Now! That mark doesn't belong to the agency anymore. It belongs to the people who own the agency." That night, Arya didn't sleep. For the first time since she'd killed her uncle, she felt small, like a child again, hiding under the piano, watching her world burn. But this time, she wasn't just running from killers. She was running from the truth. Because somewhere deep down, she realized something she hadn't dared to say out loud. Maybe her parents hadn't just been killed for money. Maybe their deaths had been ordered. And maybe, just maybe, her uncle hadn't been the only monster in the house that night. For the first time since she'd killed her uncle, she felt small, like a child again, hiding under the piano, watching her world burn. But this time, she wasn't just running from killers. She was running from the truth. Because somewhere deep down, she realized something she hadn't dared to say out loud. Maybe her parents hadn't just been killed for money. Maybe their deaths had been ordered. And maybe, just maybe, her uncle hadn't been the only monster in the house that night. A message from Silas. "They're coming. Check the drive. Don't trust anyone." She plugs the flash drive into her laptop. The screen flickers. Static. Then a folder marked Vale Confidential. Inside, old surveillance photos. Her father, her mother, boardrooms, bank meetings. And at the center of every file name, a single tag she's never seen before. Crimson Serpent. A recording autoplays. Her father's voice. Calm. Firm. The kind of voice that used to make her feel safe. "If anything happens to us, the serpent did it." The agency is only the mask. Her throat tightens. Her father knew. The laptop screen cuts to black. A new line of text types itself across the darkness. "Hello, Arya." Her breath catches. "We've been waiting for you." The cursor blinks once, twice, and the whole laptop combusts into a flash of smoke and sparks. Arya throws herself back as fire spills across the desk. The flames catch the curtains before dying down to a hiss of melted plastic. When the smoke clears, the room is silent again. Only ash remains. She stands there, trembling, staring at what's left of the computer. The smell of burned secrets thick in the air. Her voice is barely a whisper. "Crimson Serpent, what are you?" The city doesn't sleep, but it looks like it does, from 20 floors up. Arya stands at the hotel window wearing a hoodie in silence. Down below, lights shimmer like spilled gold. Somewhere in that maze of movement, a sniper waits for the order to erase her. She can almost feel it, the crosshair brushing against her pulse. She steps away from the window and opens a small metal box Silas once gave her. Inside lies an old Polaroid, her parents smiling beside their car, a little Arya perched on her father's shoulders. Someone had burned a small hole through the corner of the photo, right where her father's eyes used to be. Her phone buzzes again. Unknown number. "We warned you to stop looking. No name, no threat, just inevitability." Arya closes her eyes. She can still hear Silas's gravel voice in her head. "Once you start asking why, they start erasing who." She grips the pistol, checks the chamber, breathes. The sound of the rain outside feels like a countdown. The train yard looks different at dawn, where last night's fog had hidden everything. The pale morning light exposes rust, broken glass, and truth. Arya moves through the wreckage like a phantom retracing her own footsteps. Every step crunches over gravel that still remembers blood. She told herself she came here to find Silas, to get answers. But deep down, she's afraid of what the answers will cost. A crow screams somewhere on a power line. It feels like an omen. The small shack at the end of the yard is where Silas used to live. A dented metal door, the smell of oil and whiskey, a half-burned candle on the windowsill. She pushes the door open. Inside, empty, no movement, no breath. Only a faint humming sound from the radio left on static. Then she sees it. On the table, an envelope addressed in Silas's handwriting. Her name written slowly, almost regretfully. She tears it open. Inside, a single note and a photograph. "Forgive me, Arya. They found me first." The photograph shows Silas sitting beside a man in a dark suit, one of the agency directors she's only seen from afar. Both of them smiling. And there, printed faintly at the bottom corner of the photo, is the Crimson Serpent emblem. Her heart sinks. Silas wasn't just compromised. He was working for them. She hears the sound before she sees the flash. Metal sliding, the click of a gun behind her head. "Put it down, Arya." His voice familiar. Tired, heavy, she doesn't turn around. "You sold me. I saved you," Silas says. "At least that was the plan." She slowly places her gun on the table, keeping her hands visible. "You trained me to trust no one, remember? Guess I finally learned the lesson." He steps closer, his reflection catching in the cracked mirror beside her. The man looks older, yes, but more haunted than she's ever seen him. "I didn't have a choice," he says. "The serpent, they own everything now. The agency, the governments, the contracts. I tried to disappear. They found me, Arya. I thought if I gave them what they wanted, they'd let you live." "What they wanted," she repeats. "Which was what exactly?" "Your father's research." The word hits her like a blade. "Research?" Silas nods slowly. "Your father wasn't just a businessman. He was designing something. Something that could make the serpent obsolete. A way to track every assassin, every kill, through neural biosignatures. He wanted to expose them." Her voice cracks. "And they killed him for it." "Yes. And they kept the project alive through you." Arya turns to face him, eyes wet but unblinking. "Through me?" Silas lowers the gun, his expression torn between guilt and awe. "You were part of it, Arya. The only living prototype. Your instincts, your reaction time, none of it was chance. They made you what you are." She stumbles back, shaking her head. "No. No, you're lying." "I wish I were," Silas whispers. "Your father thought he could use the serpent's own methods to destroy them. He built a weapon disguised as a daughter. They realized it too late, and when they couldn't control him, they killed him. You survived because you were the experiment." Arya's chest tightens. The air feels too thick to breathe. "I was his daughter." "You were both," Silas says softly. "His love and his creation." The silence that follows is unbearable. Arya's tears come quietly, carving clean paths down the dirt on her cheeks. "And you knew all along." "I tried to protect you." She lifts her gaze, eyes turning from glass to steel. "No, you protected yourself." Before Silas can speak, she moves, a single fluid motion she learned from him. She grabs the gun on the table, spins and fires. The bullet misses by inches, shattering the mirror. Shards rain down around them, reflecting two ghosts who once trusted each other. Silas doesn't fire back. He just stands there, trembling. "You're not ready to fight them, Arya. They'll burn the world to keep you buried." She walks backward toward the door, gun still raised. "Then let them try." Outside, the sun finally breaks through the clouds, spilling gold over the rusted rails. For a moment, it almost looks like hope. Silas steps into the doorway, voice shaking. "They're already coming. You'll need allies." "I don't need anyone," she says. "Not anymore." And then she's gone, running through the light like a shadow that refuses to die. The rain had returned to the city, soft and relentless, drumming against glass and metal like 1,000 whispered confessions. Somewhere between midnight and regret, Arya found herself outside a building that shouldn't exist. To the world, it was just another tech conglomerate, Serpent Biotech Corporation, a clean white skyscraper wrapped in blue light and mirrored walls. But behind those walls lived the same organization that murdered her family, the same people who created her. She adjusted the black cap on her head and glanced at her reflection in a puddle. Gone was the college girl in ripped jeans and leather jacket. Now she looked like what she truly was, a ghost in plain sight. The security badge she'd stolen off a dead courier hung loosely around her neck. The name read Lydia Cole. She whispered it once under her breath, like a prayer and a curse. "Let's go, Lydia." The lobby was sleek and quiet. Too quiet. White marble floors, soft jazz playing through invisible speakers, the faint scent of antiseptic and money. The receptionist didn't even look up. Her eyes glazed, body still. For a second, Arya thought she was dead. Then she noticed the tiny flicker behind the woman's ear, a neural control implant. Her stomach turned. They were experimenting on their own people. As she moved through the halls, her boots barely made a sound. Every corridor looked the same, symmetrical, sterile, endless. She counted security cameras, motion sensors, guard rotations. It was second nature. But this time, she wasn't on a mission for money. She was here to burn an empire. In the elevator, she slid a chip into the control panel, one of the last gifts from Silas before the betrayal. The digital display flickered, glitched, then reset to an unmarked floor number. -13. The doors sealed shut. A deep hum filled the small space as the elevator descended into the dark. She felt her pulse quicken, not from fear, from memory. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Arya, when you don't understand something, don't run from it. Look deeper. Sometimes monsters hide inside miracles." When the doors opened, the light was blood red. The sublevel was cold, mechanical, alive with the sound of machines breathing. Rows of glass chambers lined the walls, each containing something that looked human, but wasn't. Bodies suspended in liquid, some young, some old, some wearing the same face as her. She froze. Her knees nearly gave out. Dozens of her, each slightly different. Hair color, height, scars, but unmistakably her. On the central console, a name burned across the holographic screen. At that moment, she made a decision to end her father's and other gang cruelty. She burnt down the place, went back so Salas end him with a bullet, read every name on the flash drive. Uncle Salas gave her. She went on the mission, ending all of them one after the other so they never hurt anyone again. Weeks passed, then months. The city began to rebuild. People came from the outer districts bringing food, clean water, even laughter. They called the settlement Haven Ridge, a name someone found painted on a half-burned sign. It stuck. Arya rarely spoke about what happened. When they asked, she would say only, "We ended something that needed ending." At night, she would sit by the river and listen to the world. No comms, no missions. Just the chirp of insects and the hum of life returning. Sometimes, when the wind was right, she thought she could hear her father's voice. Not as code or echo, but as memory. Fading, gentle, human. Arya thought there was nothing to live for as the power of revenge has destroyed her completely. Then she fire a bullet on her own head, ending her life. What do you think about HeyMrStory? Do you think revenge is the answer? Drop your thought in the comments section and remember to subscribe for more interesting true life story like this.